you're watching Two Love Swift. Today I'm reviewing Red Queen by Victoria Aveyard. I'm so late to this train. This book came out in I think 2015, and since then it's become a very popular series with tons of sequels and companion books, and I think it's coming to an end maybe this year or next year if it hasn't already. I really wanted to read Red Queen because I'm trying to read a lot of popular authors to kind of get in the zone before I go to BookCon because I hate feeling left out. I absolutely loved it. I know Victoria Aveyard came from a film background or at least screenwriting. I will tell you when there are spoilers, and I usually have a title card. Maybe this will be fun for you guys that are big fans and we can revisit the first book or whatever. When it came out, I feel like people were underwhelmed and they thought it was whatever. The fact that it keeps getting sold and the hype is still there made me really want to read it. Plus I already bought it, so that's for me, buying a book is like making a promise to myself that I'm gonna read it. But I was actually really surprised. I feel like I had really low expectations. Most of the big booktubers didn't continue this series. So Red Queen really has that premise, young adult stereotype. It's basically just like Divergent, like again, at a base level, like on surface value. This is the kind of plot that if you describe to someone, they'd like laugh and be like, oh my gosh, it's like every YA, you know. But it made it easy for me to start it, and like I felt comfortable in the world or whatever. So basically there's people with silver blood and people with red blood. People with red blood don't have powers. Silver blooded people have different powers ranging from fire, electricity, mind control. People with red blood are like peasants and they live in like small villages and they work all day. Silver people are in castles and stuff. But I thought that it was really interesting because the main character, through a series of circumstances that weren't too unrealistic, like I was buying it like 80%. Mare, who's the main character, goes from the poorest, like in this family, to a princess in a silver castle pretending to be a silver. There's two princes. There's Maven and Cal. I felt like Maven was too close to Mare. I don't like two M names. They both start with M. But she meets Cal before she enters the palace, and he's dressed up as a commoner, and he gives her a job as like a servant. Right off the bat, I was like in love with Cal, and I loved him so much, and I was like, he's my everything. I love him so much. He's gonna be great. The conditions of the red are so extreme, and it looks so bad, and like how could he support that? But it's kind of like Abraham Lincoln, and it's like the North and the South are at war, and like you're just like, oh god, like so many people are gonna die and you just want to keep the country together or whatever. Like that's kind of where Cal is, but also he's not the king yet, so like it's not like he's done anything yet. He went undercover. I thought that meant that he was like one of them and he was like wanted to free the Reds, but he doesn't. It was super fun when she was in the palace and she was all dressed up, surrounded with Maven and Cal and like these two hot like princes. I'm like, ooh, YA, like we're in the palace, like she's just a common girl. Like it was such a great, like almost like fan fiction scenario. My complaints are basically, by the end of this book we already left the palace and basically everything falls apart by the end of the first book, which I feel like is more how recent YA series have been doing it, is by the first book like everything will be different. I feel like in like older books, like in like the Hunger Games or something, it's not until like the last one where like it's war and chaos or whatever, but like the Darkest Minds, like shit falls apart in the first book, for example. Same thing happened in Red Queen, but I think it would have been more fun to have more palace time. I really like the palace part of this book. There's just like training montage and like fancy dinners and stuff, and she joins like the Scarlet Guard, which is like the rebels out of the first book, which I mean, I guess I could see like the grief that she went through with her brother, and like of course she was gonna retaliate, and I guess it seems obvious now, but also I really feel like she didn't know who Farley was or what Farley wanted. When she shows up out of the palace and she gets the note in her drink and they say, are you sure you want to pledge your whole life and you will do whatever we say and you will be tortured but you can't share any information? First of all, I feel like they accepted her so easily and she didn't even like know what she was getting into. Second of all, the fact that Maven just showed up and they barely like questioned him. Like of course he was a spy. I was just like, that's so dumb. I was reading this like, no way, because they're like, are you sure you're with us? You're the prince. I don't think you can handle it. And he's like, I think reds should have the same opportunities as silvers. I was just like, there's no way that they can trust him. And they just did. And I guess, yeah, he gave him good information and it worked, but it was all for his advantage, and we found that out. So I thought Maven was working for the king the whole time, and it turns out he had his own agenda with his mother, which is really interesting. Julian's like the mentor. It felt very forced, like he's like one of her teachers, and he's like old and wise, and he like remembers how things used to be. It felt very forced, and they didn't really get to know each other. Like the second I met him, I was like, oh, he's like the old mentor. My biggest complaint about this book is that I don't feel any female relationships at all. I don't feel like she's being brought up or influenced or anything by any female relationships. And there's some obvious ones here. There's her little sister, Geisha? Starts with a G. I think that's telling that I can't even remember her little sister's name. Well, first it seems like they're really close and she's a big influence in her life. And then as the book goes on, she's like, yeah, I agree with you, Maven. Like, my sibling sucks, and I hate when they're the center of attention. And I'm like, oh, I thought you, like, cared about your sister more than anything. I guess not. And I felt like she wasn't really important to Mare or Mare's development. There was not, like, a continuous relationship that was anything like her relationships with Cal, Maven, Julian. Evangeline was such, like, I was so disappointed. She's such, like, flat character, and this economy, like, we can't do this anymore. Like, give us women who we can talk to. Like, there was no depth to her. In Girls of Paper and Fire, there was like there was a mean girl, and then we got a little bit to the bottom of her. I think her name was Blue, if you read that book. In the selection, I remember there being like mean girls in the castle. It's just such old news. I feel like it probably happens in the Hunger Games. I really expected Evangeline to be in the Scarlet Guard, to have a secret, because she's absolutely blank. She just says mean things, and then we never find out what her deal is, and it was so cheap. And I think I'm getting kind of heated right now because I really love and respect Victoria Aveyard, but Evangeline was just such a bad character who just kept being brought up. Like, having a bully, that can be meaningful because a lot of, like, she's a young, like, she's 17, like, she gets bullied, but the fact that it was the one other female character in the castle her age that she was relating with was so harmful and honestly insulting. I think Aveyard could have done so many things with Evangeline or the other women in the castle that just got fucking swept under the rug. And I'm sure that there's more books after this, and I'm excited to see the relationship with Farley, but honestly, I think it was a lazy character, and a lot of this book was, I mean, I love this book to death, but sometimes it's just like totally leaning on these cliches just because the author didn't know what to do, or Aveyard didn't know like what people would want to read, and then people like Evangeline show up, and I mean, I'm pissed. Yeah, that's what I have to say about that. And then I wanted to jump into Farley, who's our, I think, most significant female character who we can tell is going to continue with us to the second book, which I think is called Glass Sword. Farley's great. I think she has a lot of potential. I mean, that's all I can say about her. We didn't really know if she was on her side. We thought she betrayed us. I really was like mad when because Mare thought that Farley put off a bomb at the ball and it wasn't like planned. And I was so mad, and I was like, I can't believe we trusted the Scarlet Guard and gave them all this information and are killing people over this. We don't even trust our own people. But it turns out that Farley didn't set off the bomb, and it was like the fire from Cal's powers or something. But the point was the Scarlet Guard only killed like 5 people or whatever, and it was to make a point. But the people that they killed were who Maven gave the names of, and they were the names of people who were kind of against the palace. I feel like the Scarlet Guard was so unorganized. Throughout the book we find out that there's more people like Mare who are Reds but have powers, and yeah, that's gonna be an army, but there's gonna be war, and it's like, I get it that like, oh, in the real world, like there's a lot of fighting and there's like pain and war. I just want to read like a dystopian or something where like there's peace without fighting, because I think if we're talking about like a fictional world, I think it would be so great, especially for young readers. I want to see diplomacy and I don't want to see bloodshed. I feel like there has to be less killing sometimes, or just like not war. Even in like our fantasy, can we imagine some kind of peace treaty or something happening? Cal was driving me up the wall because he was like, oh, like reds are different, like we have to keep them separate, blah blah blah. And Maven was on her side for the Scarlet Guard, and then he had this like sad boy energy. I just saw him with like a scene haircut. Like when he kisses her, I really felt something. And like it wasn't like Cal feels meant to be. Cal feels like Jace or something. I wasn't hating Maven. The scenes with Cal felt like really like inserted, because it's just like, oh, at night we danced around and one time we kissed. I really felt their chemistry without that. I felt like they needed something more powerful to bond over. Like maybe they were sneaking out together more or something. Like when he was there with her family, like him going to her village and like being there when she found out her brother died felt more powerful than like when they danced around in the middle of the night. I don't know why they kept bringing that up. Oh, I remember when I danced with you, blah blah blah, dancing with you. Like that was just honestly like kind of weak to me. Well, it ended up being explained at the end, but I just thought the whole time, I thought it was so dumb that they thought that the queen didn't know that they were in the Scarlet Guard, because Queen Alara, she can read their minds. And they really thought, well, Maven gives us information that like, oh, she's not as powerful as you think. Like she doesn't go into her head unless she suspects you. But Mare was worried that the queen would go into her mind and find out that she's working against the palace. But the fact that she didn't expect that to happen, she saw the queen all the time. And of course the queen knew, because like her and Maven were working together. Like there's no freaking way. There's no way that the queen doesn't know that Maven and Mare are in the Scarlet Guard. And she did. And it was just so obvious. Like she can read your mind. Like why would you even think about going against her, you know? I don't really know what Mare's deal was. She really stays with the Scarlet Guard after like all the trauma at the ball. Like she's crying and everyone's dead, and it's just like, how can she go so headfirst into something that she's so fundamentally conflicted with? I think that was hard for the entire book. I'm so curious how this is gonna happen, because I guess it's kind of like when Katniss, Hunger Games spoiler, Katniss kills President Coin, who's the leader of the rebellion, so then it's kind of like, who does she side with? So it definitely has that vibe where it's kind of like, you can't trust anyone. And I love that the book keeps telling us anyone can betray anyone. I thought that was so funny. The end of the book was really dramatic, and I think that was good and it needed that, but it was just like so obvious that Mare wasn't going to die. The book was trying to convince us that she would, and like she is going to die. She's walking to her death. This is her execution. And it was just so dumb, because she's not gonna die, and like don't even try. Like we know she's not gonna die. She targeted the Silver who was using his powers to diminish hers, and then she was free to take down like the whole arena. That was so smart and creative. I don't usually like battle sequences, but I thought that was really good. And then of course she ends up with Cal at the end of the book, but they don't agree with each other, and it's just kind of like perfect. But at the same time, like I started this book like loving Cal, like worshiping Cal, like I'm so excited to hear more about Cal. And then it was like really easily convincing me. Like I was exactly with Mare. Like, no, like we can't like him. He's so bad. It's like the Republican I had a crush on in high school. Oh my God, like the same energy. But I don't know how we're gonna redeem him. I mean, because the palace already shunned him, I guess he has to be on our side now. Also, I just want to point out, like everyone thought that he killed his father, but like everybody knows that Queen Alara has these powers. So if he just said, like I guess he doesn't really have like a public voice right now, but if he claimed that his mother forced him to kill him, would anyone believe him? Because like first you're like, no, they wouldn't believe him, but like I mean, like it's just as unbelievable that Cal would kill his own father. So like I said, at the end of the book we leave the palace, and it's like whatever, like we're going underground or whatever the hell. That was kind of annoying. I like being in the palace. I like all the pretty dresses and like her pretending to be Silver. Like that's way more fun to me, and I don't really want to go underground into like whatever war zone is gonna happen until like later books. And I feel like this is a trilogy, but there's just so many companions that it might as well not be. I feel like there's maybe 5 books right now, or it just feels like a lot. Real freaking pissed about the whole Evangeline situation. The writing was okay. I was so tired of the italicized words. It happens probably like 4 or 5 times a page, and it just was trying to be dramatic. Honestly, I had so much fun. Like, I wouldn't be talking so passionately if I didn't care so much about this book. I'm really excited to see where it goes. So glad I finally read Red Queen. Like, can I have a hallelujah? I think that's all I have to say. Comment down below if you like Red Queen, if it gets better in the series or if it gets worse. I'm really curious. That would really help me. Again, thank you so much for watching. I love you. Bye!